even insurance, when we talk about insurance, is only really just catching up. I've had to look at cyber insurance policies for our organisation, and I've gone, these are insufficient. Like, this is great. I'd love to pay my premium, but what are you actually covering me for? When I look at my actual business risks, the policy falls short. And I think organisations are only just starting to look at what the policies actually cover now that the breaches are actually happening. Damien, the insurance landscape's changing rapidly. I know it's getting way more expensive. What would you say to that?
Well, recent reports have said that 80% to 100% increase in cyber premiums over the last number of years. And really that's forced businesses to rethink how much cover can they afford. Can they even afford those premiums, or are they uninsurable? And then unfortunately that has sometimes led organisations to go for cheaper policies that maybe don't have the cover that they need. And so the devil's in the detail with these things, as you know, and especially cyber liability insurance, where there's so many nuances around the types of threats and types of costs that they will or won't cover. So it's important to work closely with your broker to understand the nuances and making sure that you've got the right cover for your type of business.
And that's where, if your execs aren't aware and aren't clued in and don't have the education to understand, they may well sign off something that's inappropriate. It's not going to work. It's not going to deliver when you really need it. Waste of money, but also opens you up to, like you say, up to $2 million in a breach. That shuts a small medium business down potentially, depending on its size. Let's talk a little bit more about the small to medium business area. Damien, I know you work a lot in that space, and your solution particularly does that. Can you sort of share what the sort of impacts might be to a smaller business from an attack like this?
Yeah, well, the stat that I mentioned earlier was the 60% of small businesses actually go out of business within 6 months after suffering a cyber incident. So that's just a massive wake-up call. And the reality is that historically small businesses haven't had to worry about the impacts because the hackers were typically going for the larger organizations. But for those reasons I mentioned, the supply chain attacks and just the automated nature of the attacks. So these drive-by attacks, these are people sitting often in China and Russia and other countries where they're just running automated port scans or searching for vulnerabilities on websites and IP addresses. They don't know if you're the local hairdresser or a bank necessarily at that point. They're just looking for vulnerabilities they can exploit. So essentially it's a bit of that, as I said, a drive-by attack where they're just trying to pick off vulnerabilities. Then they dig a little bit deeper, try to find usernames and passwords or access to other networks. Often they'll lie dormant. I think Carla mentioned that it's often close to a year that an attacker will actually sit dormant in your network before the actual incident is identified. So that's often the first phase of attack, is they're just sitting there dormant. Then they'll look for ways to do it. So things like business email compromise is a massive one for small businesses, where they just need to compromise your email address. Once they do that, they look for invoices coming into and out of the organization, and then they just copy the PDF, change the bank details, and send it off to a supplier or a customer, depending on which side they're trying to attack. And then all of a sudden someone's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially for an invoice to the wrong person, and that gets shipped off to a Bitcoin account, and they never see the money again. So that's really devastating. That's one of the bigger cyber threats for small to medium enterprises at the moment.
Yeah.